I woke up disoriented in a bright room. So bright, in fact, that I squinted as I tried to reorient myself. Turning my head was useless as my neck was so sore that I could barely use it. And it wasn't just my neck either, it was my whole body. My whole body ached. Furthermore, I was strapped to a bed. Open up. Mark, I need you to open your mouth and stick out your tongue. Still confused, I tried to speak, but my mouth was so swollen that everything came out jarbled. And that's when I recognized next to the bed sat my parents, holding my hand as the medical staff reattached my tongue. Mom leaned in and whispered, "Son, it looks like you had a seizure, but don't worry, we're not going anywhere." Worst day ever. This makes no sense, I said to myself. Just 12 hours ago, I was coordinating an event so large that my staff was getting jiggy with it while we broke every fire code in the city. Just 12 hours ago, I achieved the professional achievement of going to the moon and back. Just 12 hours ago, I was having my best day ever. The best day of your life could turn out to be the worst thing to ever happen to you. And on the flip side, the worst day of your life could turn out to be the best thing to ever happen to you. If you're like me, it's happened a few times. On this occasion, the worst and the best experience happened on the same day. Two birds, one stone, discount. Got them all over with. I'm not alone in feeling like this. I'm not alone. And this is why, as a positive psychologist, I'm interested in the interaction between our experiences in life and the way that we function. Right? So I came up with this comprehensive growth model. Now here, if we look at the horizontal line, the further you go to the left, the more your experience is traumatic or stressful. The more you go to the right, the more the experience is ecstatic and happy. Now let's look at the vertical line, also a continuum. Towards the top, the positive, optimal functioning. We start moving down, we start moving to dysfunction. Now, anytime I talk about functioning, I'm talking about your ability to complete tasks, your psychological well-being, or your emotional regulation. All right. So let's look at the let's look at the way that these two continua interact. Now, when we look at trauma, which results in dysfunction, it's called post-stress syndrome, with the most well-known one being posttraumatic growth. Now, I'm not here to give you a bunch of jargon, so I came up with some cool nicknames. Because of negative trauma and negative dysfunction, I call it double trouble. Now, above double trouble, we still have a negative experience, which results in optimal functioning. This can happen, and it's called post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth is the traditional model of growth. Think no pain, no gain. Something negative happens. You arise from it, and you're better for it. That's why I call it the comeback kid. Now let's move towards positive experiences. When we have a positive experience with positive functioning, it's called post-ecstatic growth. It's the opposite of the comeback kid. So I like to call it the no pain, just gain phenomenon. Finally, at the bottom, we have a positive experience with negative functioning. So what does this mean? This is like any time you have a goal in life. You have a goal in life and you strive for it and you finally achieve it. For example, graduating from college. I wanted to go to college my whole life, and then I finally graduated, being left saying, is this all there is? Neil Armstrong actually went through this. I went to the moon and back. Now what? That's why I call this the Armstrong effect. Now, do you see how these quadrants actually are interrelated with each other? That's why, for the most part, you're not stuck in any one of these quadrants. You zip in and out depending on memories and events. I know this because it's one thing to come up with a comprehensive growth model by Marc Cordon. It's another thing to live it. When I was in my PhD program, I worked in the university health office. You know that office? The one that's known for handing out condoms and telling students to practice safe sex? Hey, no glove, no love. Hey, you. If you can't shield that rocket, keep it in your pocket. Yeah, I worked there. And then my ex-girlfriend and I got pregnant while I worked there. As hilarious as that is, and ironic as that is, now, at the time, I was completely embarrassed to go to work. I felt judged. In my personal life, my super conservative, super Catholic family, telling them this was an absolute shame. And those downs that came from that experience, those downs affected the way that I showed up. Or more importantly, the way that I didn't show up. In essence, as a result of a negative experience, I was having dysfunction. I was going through my post-stress syndrome. I was in double trouble. And that embarrassment and that shame almost overshadowed the greatest thing to ever happen to our family, the birth of my son. And from this experience, I realized the true nature of this comprehensive growth model. This model is not about diagnosing people who've been through the ups and the downs and the all-arounds of life, but rather how to grow wherever you are. So I conducted research on each quadrant separately, and I actually found 5 qualities inherent of people who grow and thrive regardless of what quadrant they're in. For example, surround yourself with virtuous friends. Aristotle called a virtuous friend as someone who derives their highest happiness only when you attain your highest happiness. It could be a friend, a teacher, a coach, or a parent who will get jiggy with it when you break attendance records or hold your hand when you've had a seizure. Now, here in the comprehensive growth model, in double trouble, a virtuous friend looks like a caring therapist who will get you out of dysfunction. Now, virtuous friends are as important. They're as important in the ups that happen from the amazingness of life. A not so virtuous buddy can absolutely ruin a celebration and put you in post-success syndrome. Imagine this scenario. George, I just got a TEDx. Well, good for you, guy. I heard you got rejected like 25 times. It was more like 27, but no one's counting or anything. Well, just don't screw this one up, guy. Click. I hate it when people call me guy. Do you see how in this moment of bliss, someone can completely hijack it here? In a society where we tend to put not enough weight on savoring the really great micro moments in life, who are your virtuous friends? It's much easier to identify your virtuous friends than scroll through your Facebook feed looking for quotes, pithy quotes, or hang up a poster of a kitten dangling from a rope with the slogan, "Hang in there." Tantamount to having virtuous friends, tantamount to uh, tantamount to everything else with growth, is the idea of creating meaning by spotting opportunity. I'm a proud dad. I'm a proud uncle. I'm a proud godfather. And as the boys are getting older, the number one thing they ask me is why? Why, Daddy? Why, Uncle Mark? Why this? Why that? Why, Guy? Click. I love when they do this because it means that we're hardwired to make meaning in the world. We're hardwired to, to make sense out of all of this. So as you make meaning, ask, in this moment, what is the opportunity that I have to grow? What is the opportunity that I have to grow? And as you spot opportunities to grow, it usually turns into action. It doesn't always happen, which is why grit is so important. Grit starts with purpose. On your worst day, for what and for whom do you get out of bed? How about that for purpose? For what and for whom? Now, grit is the act of getting out of bed on your worst day and then doing it again the next day when things seem to have gotten worse. It's persistence through adversity. It's resilience in your purpose. So how do you get gritty with it? Take action on what means most to you now. Growth takes effort. Simple as that. Final point is this. Change the way you see yourself and understand yourself. Have you ever thought about why it is that we speak to ourselves so negatively? We say things to ourselves that we never say to our friends, or our enemies for that matter. And when we look at our lives through such a negative lens, we can only see the world through the same perspective. So even if we have an amazing moment, we're doomed to fall into post-success syndrome. So how do we break and disrupt that cycle? Simply step outside of yourself. Someone gave me this last night. I want you to imagine that this beautiful little popsicle stick has been following you around your entire life, watching your every move, your every thought, your every intention. Now pretend that you could have a conversation with this popsicle stick. What would this popsicle stick say is your most unique strengths and qualities? This is called psychological distancing, and it contributes to you being more objective in seeing yourself. And it allows you to positively reshape your inner world. Reshape your inner world, and your outer world changes dramatically. Objectively identify your strengths and qualities. Now, 5 points, comprehensive growth model. You might be sitting here saying, Mark, today's not the worst day of my life. It's also not the best either. It's somewhere in the middle. Yet it's in the middle, in what people call the mundane, the day-to-day, where this model thrives. In Hollywood, this is the point where they start rolling the credits because the conflict is over. In reality, we continue to go through these ups and downs and all arounds of life. I certainly do. Just when I thought I was over my seizures, my 4-year-old started having his. And I sat next to him in the hospital and held his hand like any virtuous parent would. I wasn't going anywhere. Life is a collection of these moments. The great, the not so great, the mundane. But that's not totally complete because we put so much weight on events themselves trying to fix our problems and not enough weight on how we're transforming ourselves through processing those events. Y'all, you're not going to grow through any event, but you can grow by processing it, which means this. Every micro moment in life gives you the opportunity to distill value and grow. Every moment that seems ordinary gives you the possibility to create the extraordinary. Thank you.